Eli shuffled through the narrow corridors of the abandoned space station, each footstep echoing in the cold, empty metal halls. The station had long been deserted by traders, miners, and explorers alike. Once, it had thrummed with life and commerce, but now it was only shadows and rust. The lights flickered overhead, casting dim patterns on the walls, making every corner seem alive. Eli's stomach growled, reminding him sharply that he had not eaten in over a day. He had scavenged what he could from the broken containers, but most of the food had gone long ago. His last ration of protein paste, the only thing that could keep him from collapsing, rested in a small pouch at his belt. The human had been traveling alone for weeks, scavenging derelict stations in the sector, trying to gather enough supplies to survive another week. Andara's sector was notorious for its lawless edges, abandoned stations, and rogue merchants. Most humans avoided it, preferring the central systems where law, civilization, and regular supplies existed. But Eli had learned early that opportunity and danger walked together. As he rounded a corner near a collapsed control room, he noticed movement ahead. At first he thought it might be a rat, or whatever small creatures sometimes survived in these old stations. But the figure that emerged was not any animal he knew. She was humanoid, but unlike any human. Her skin had a pale shimmer, almost translucent, catching the flickering light as she moved. Her eyes were luminous, deep pools of light that reflected the dim glow around her. She crouched beside a broken container, picking through scraps as if she had not eaten in days. Eli froze. She had no weapon, no armor, just ragged clothing that looked more ceremonial than practical. Yet there was an aura about her, a quiet dignity that made him step back instinctively. He watched for a moment, debating what to do. His ration could feed him for 2 more days, perhaps 3 if he rationed carefully. Hunger pressed at his mind, demanding he think only of survival. But then she looked up. Her luminous eyes met his, and for a moment, everything else, the hunger, the danger, the cold metal of the station, fell away. There was a silent plea in her gaze, a request without words, simple and clear. She was not threatening him. She was asking for help. Eli's instincts screamed. He should walk away. 1 meal was not much in the grand scheme of things, but in the present, it was survival. And yet something in him stirred, a memory of his mother long ago, telling him that true courage was not always about strength, but about compassion, about choosing to help, even when it was difficult. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached into his pouch. The protein paste container was smooth and cool, still sealed. He handed it to her. The alien woman hesitated for a heartbeat, then accepted it. Her hands were delicate, almost fragile, but careful. She opened it and began eating, small bites at first, as if savoring what she had not tasted in a long time. Eli watched her. She did not speak his language, and he could not speak hers, but her expression spoke volumes. Gratitude, relief, something deeper that tugged at him in ways he could not name. He had expected little more than a nod, perhaps a whispered thanks in a strange tongue, but she bowed her head slightly, a gesture that seemed ancient, ceremonial even. But when she looked back at him, there was a softness in her eyes, a warmth he did not expect from a stranger. Then, as silently as she had appeared, she rose and began moving down another corridor, disappearing into the shadows. Eli stood there, holding the emptiness of the container in his hand, realizing he had not felt hunger in a moment, distracted by something far more profound, a sense of connection, however fleeting, with a being so different from himself. He shrugged, trying to shake off the feeling. There were more pressing concerns. He needed supplies, clean water, a safe place to sleep. His stomach rumbled again, reminding him that reality had not changed. He continued through the station, scavenging containers, opening panels, anything that might hold a scrap of food or water. Most of it was empty or broken. The station had been abandoned for decades, and time had not been kind. Hours passed. The lights flickered and died in sections, plunging some corridors into darkness. Eli used the small flashlight clipped to his suit, scanning each passage with care. Every creak of metal or distant clang set his nerves on edge. But through the unease, he could not stop thinking about the alien woman. Why had she been there, alone? Why had she looked so desperate? And why did her eyes seem to see something in him that no one else ever had? By the time he found a small maintenance chamber, he was exhausted. The walls were lined with old supply crates, some broken, some intact. He rummaged through what he could, finding a few scattered tools and a half-empty water container. It was not much, but it would have to do for the night. He settled down in the corner, pulling the door shut behind him. Sleep came slowly. Even in the darkness, he could see her face in his mind's eye. The glow of her skin, the shine in her eyes, the way she had eaten as though every bite mattered. He could not explain why, but a small part of him hoped their paths would cross again. The night passed in uneasy quiet. Shadows moved across the walls as the station shifted with the gentle vibrations of the distant star. Eli woke to the sound of metal scraping against metal. His heart jumped. He grabbed a small wrench from the pile of tools, ready to defend himself, but there was nothing there, only the echo of his own movements. As he prepared to leave the maintenance chamber, he noticed something unusual. Near the entrance, a small panel that had been sealed tight the day before was slightly ajar. Curious, he knelt and opened it. Inside was a compartment containing a set of old rations, more protein paste containers, carefully stored. Eli's eyes widened. Whoever had placed them here must have known someone would need them, and then he remembered her. Perhaps she had not only survived, but also prepared for someone else to survive after her. He shook his head. He did not understand, and perhaps he never would. But he packed the supplies carefully, feeling a renewed sense of hope. Survival in the Outer Rim was difficult, harsh, and often lonely, but sometimes, even in the bleakest places, small acts of kindness could ripple farther than anyone realized. With his new supplies, Eli made his way to the station's docking bay. The exterior view of space was breathtaking. Even from a derelict station, stars stretched infinitely in all directions, scattered like diamonds across a black velvet sky. And beyond the distant nebulae, a promise of other worlds, other lives, awaited. Eli's journey was far from over. Hunger would be sated, but the memory of the alien woman would linger, mysterious and compelling, a quiet reminder that even in the emptiness of space, connection was possible. As he prepared the small shuttle for departure, he looked back at the station one last time. The shadows seemed deeper now, but they held a story he could not yet read. He could only hope that wherever she had gone, she was safe. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a life he had touched, however briefly, was moving forward, and perhaps in time, paths would cross again in ways neither could imagine. Eli fired the engines, the soft hum vibrating through the hull. He rose slowly from the station, leaving the derelict corridors behind. Yet, in the silence of the void, he felt it, the quiet weight of a promise he had not spoken, a bond formed with an alien stranger over the simplest act of sharing a meal. In a galaxy filled with dangers, conflicts, and the unknown, this small act of kindness had reminded him of something essential. Humanity, in all its imperfections, could still shine through. And as the stars stretched ahead, Eli did not know it yet, but the choice he had made, the simple act of giving his last meal, would echo far beyond the edges of the Andara sector. Somewhere out there, a life had been changed, and soon the galaxy itself would take notice. Eli's shuttle glided smoothly through the silent expanse of space, stars streaking past as he navigated toward Andara Prime, the central hub of the sector. His mind was restless, replaying the encounter in the abandoned station. The pale, luminous-eyed woman had disappeared as suddenly as she appeared, leaving him with more questions than answers. Her presence lingered like a faint light in the dark corridors of his memory. He shook his head, trying to focus on the task at hand. Supplies were running low, but he had gathered enough from the station to last another week. As he approached Andara Prime, the space station unfolded before him in all its glory. Unlike the desolate outpost he had just left, Andara Prime buzzed with activity. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked, cargo drones hummed along their designated paths, and merchants hawked their wares from every open bay. The human population was small but noticeable among the mix of alien species. Eli maneuvered his shuttle toward an available docking port, careful to avoid the larger freighters and their escorts. As he prepared to dock, he noticed a gathering near the central plaza. A crowd was forming, murmuring and pointing toward the largest hangar. Curiosity tugged at him, and he steered his shuttle closer. At first, he thought it might be a routine ceremony or a visit from a prominent official. But the energy in the crowd felt different. An anticipation that was almost electric. The whispers grew louder, repeating the same words. "The Queen of the Galaxy is here." Eli froze, confusion and disbelief washing over him. The Queen of the Galaxy? Here? His mind raced back to the pale, hungry woman he had fed in the derelict station. Could it be? No, it was impossible. She had been starving, weak, and clearly hiding from anyone who might notice her. And yet, a strange certainty gripped him, an inexplicable recognition he could not ignore. He docked his shuttle and joined the crowd, trying to catch a glimpse of the figure everyone was talking about. The plaza was grand, with smooth metallic floors and towering pillars adorned with glowing glyphs. At the center, a raised platform had been set up, and there she was. The same pale-skinned woman, now dressed in flowing robes of crystalline fabric that shimmered with an inner light. Her eyes glowed softly, commanding attention without a word. Even from a distance, Eli could see the grace in her movements, the quiet authority that made the murmuring crowd fall silent. Eli's heart pounded. This was the same woman. The hungry stranger who had accepted his last ration was none other than the Queen of the Galaxy. He struggled to comprehend it. How could someone of such stature be wandering alone in a derelict station, hungry and vulnerable? He felt a mix of awe and guilt. He had given her what little he had, not knowing who she was, yet somehow his small act had connected him to someone far greater than himself. The crowd parted as her attendants guided her to the center of the platform. Eli watched in fascination as she surveyed the plaza with calm, unyielding eyes. When she finally focused her gaze on him, recognition flickered across her expression. A smile, a gentle, almost imperceptible smile, touched her lips. Eli's stomach nodded. Was she angry? Was she amused? The crowd hushed, sensing a moment of significance, though no one could have understood why. The Queen descended the platform, her steps light but deliberate. She approached him, and the noise of the plaza seemed to fade around them. Eli could barely breathe. He had expected punishment, disdain, or at least indifference. Instead, she stopped a few feet away and spoke in a voice that resonated through the plaza, clear and melodious. "You fed me when no one else would," she said. Her words were simple, yet carried a weight that made Eli's chest tighten. "Your act of kindness will not be forgotten." Eli swallowed hard. I didn't know who you were," he stammered. I didn't want to see someone go hungry." Her smile deepened, and she extended her hand, not as a ruler to a subject, but as one being acknowledging another. And yet, in that moment you showed more than anyone in this sector has in years. You acted with compassion when survival would have demanded selfishness. That is the essence of humanity. The words struck him, both humbling and bewildering. He had always thought survival was about skill, cunning, and luck. Now he realized that his small act of empathy carried more significance than any training or strategy could. The queen motioned for him to follow her. Eli hesitated for only a moment before falling in step behind her attendants. They moved through corridors lined with light panels and alien glyphs, leading to a chamber that overlooked the city below. The view was breathtaking. Sprawling towers of iridescent metal, skyways filled with hovering vehicles, and a distant horizon that glowed with the energy of the sector's suns. "This is my world," she said, turning to him. "But it is not mine alone. I serve the galaxy, its countless beings, and its fragile balance. And yet, even I can be hungry. Even I can be vulnerable. That is why your action mattered. It reminded me that even amidst the complexities of power, simple kindness endures." Eli nodded, unsure how to respond. Words felt inadequate in the presence of someone so extraordinary, someone whose life spanned responsibilities he could scarcely imagine. And yet he felt a strange comfort, as though the universe had momentarily shrunk to just the two of them. Before he could gather his thoughts, her attendants entered, carrying a holographic map of the sector. They projected a cluster of red symbols near the outer rim, and Eli realized immediately that they marked a dangerous anomaly, a rogue swarm of sentient meteors hurtling toward inhabited systems. The queen's expression hardened, and the room filled with the quiet hum of urgency. "This swarm," she explained, "has already destroyed several colonies. The elite fleets are hesitant. They fear the swarm's unpredictability, its sentience. It will take more than weapons to stop it. It will take intuition, courage, and adaptability. I need someone who can think beyond protocol." Eli felt a chill. He had no experience commanding fleets or engaging in cosmic battles. He was a scavenger, a survivor at best. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw a spark of trust, a belief that humanity, something so small, so underestimated, could contribute. "You believe I can help?" he asked cautiously. "I do," she said. "Humanity has a strength others overlook: resourcefulness, adaptability, the ability to make choices when no one else can. That is why I sought you out." The gravity of her words settled over him. Eli was no hero, no soldier of legend. Yet here he was, being asked to help save countless lives across the galaxy, and he could not ignore it. Not when he had already glimpsed the power of simple acts, when he had already seen how small gestures could ripple into consequences far beyond his imagination. She led him to a strategy room where holographic star maps rotated in midair. The red symbols of the swarm pulsed with danger. Several alien officers, tall and imposing, stood around the map, debating tactics in a language Eli barely understood. Their gestures were sharp, tense, and filled with doubt. They had seen countless threats, yet they hesitated now. The queen's presence commanded them to listen, but even she seemed aware of the enormity of the task. "You will lead a small fleet," she said, turning to him. "Not by rank or title, but by insight. Show us how humanity confronts the impossible." Eli's stomach turned. He had no training, no authority, and yet a strange calm settled over him. The same calm he had felt when offering his last meal to a stranger. Courage, he realized, was not the absence of fear. It was the choice to act despite it. Over the next several hours, Eli studied the swarm's projected paths, patterns, and anomalies. He observed how the alien officers relied heavily on rigid protocols, cautious strategies that prioritized minimal risk. Eli, by contrast, thought in human terms: improvisation, observation, and bold action. He suggested maneuvers that seemed reckless to the seasoned officers, yet each had a logic rooted in adaptability and quick thinking. Slowly, they began to trust him, seeing the value of a human mind unbound by tradition or fear. By the time the chamber fell silent, Eli understood that the coming battle would test not only his courage, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. Compassion, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when others hesitated were his greatest tools. And somewhere in the back of his mind, He thought of the hungry woman from the station, the Queen, and realized that the smallest acts of kindness could lead to the greatest responsibilities. As the fleet prepared to depart, Eli looked out through the massive observation window. The stars stretched endlessly, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere among them, countless lives depended on choices yet to be made. And for the first time, Eli felt that the universe was not a place of only survival, but of connection, meaning, and the quiet strength of humanity. He took a deep breath. The swarm approached, relentless and unknowable. Yet he was ready, not as a hero of legend, but as a human capable of courage, empathy, and ingenuity. And that, he realized, might be enough to change the course of the galaxy. The fleet of Andara Prime drifted toward the outer rim, where the swarm of sentient meteors had already begun its chaotic path. From the observation deck of the command ship, Eli watched as massive rocks glowing faintly with internal energy moved with a disturbing intelligence. They weren't just drifting, they were calculating, anticipating, almost alive. The alien officers in the control room moved with precision, issuing commands in rapid, unfamiliar tones. Their fleets were tight formations, heavy with armor and firepower, designed to destroy any conventional threat. But Eli noticed the problem immediately. The swarm was unpredictable, changing direction at the last moment, splitting into smaller clusters, avoiding concentrated fire. No pattern in the alien protocols could match the swarm's chaotic intelligence. "Standard approach won't work," Eli said, pointing to the map. "They're learning from every maneuver. If we hit the same way twice, they'll adapt. We need unpredictability, flexible responses, and multiple small strikes, rather than one massive attack." The officers exchanged skeptical looks. One of them, a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms, snapped, "You are a human. You know nothing of galactic warfare. How can your suggestion succeed?" Eli swallowed his fear, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. "Maybe I don't know galactic warfare," he said calmly. "But I know improvisation. I know that reacting to the unexpected is better than sticking to a plan that fails every time. We can't win by rigid strategy alone." The Queen's eyes met his across the room. She said nothing, but her quiet confidence gave him courage. Slowly, the alien officers began to nod, acknowledging the validity of his insight. By the time the fleet entered the swarm sector, Eli had formulated a plan. The core idea was simple in principle, but risky in execution. Small, fast units would act independently, baiting clusters of meteors while the larger fleet focused on weak points. Human pilots, known for their intuition and adaptability, would take the lead. Eli took a deep breath and moved to the tactical console. "All units, follow my signal. Trust the instincts of your pilots. Adapt on the move. Hesitation will get us destroyed." The first engagement was immediate. Clusters of glowing meteors veered toward the fleet with alarming speed. Explosions lit the void as massive ships fired energy beams, but the meteors twisted around them, seemingly anticipating the attacks. A smaller unit, following Eli's improvisational strategy, darted ahead, drawing a cluster away from the main fleet. The alien officers watched, tense, as the small unit maneuvered expertly, evading the meteors while marking weak points. Eli guided them through the controls, calling out adjustments in real time. It was chaos, but chaos with purpose. A rhythm humans had mastered in survival situations for millennia. As the battle progressed, Eli realized the swarm was not merely reactive. It was learning, evolving. When one maneuver worked, the meteors adjusted, changing speed and formation. The alien fleet hesitated, constrained by their rigid protocols, but Eli continued to adapt. He issued unconventional orders, split formations, unpredictable retreats, feints that drew the swarm into vulnerable positions. Hours passed. The battle was exhausting, mentally and physically. Eli's body ached, his mind raced, and still he kept pushing, calculating the swarm's next move. In a rare quiet moment, he glimpsed the Queen observing from the command balcony. She did not interfere. She trusted him. Her faith was a quiet anchor in the storm. Then, disaster struck. A massive cluster, larger than any before, surged through the fleet's defenses. The lead ship, an alien dreadnought, was struck and disabled. Explosions rippled across its hull, and alarms blared. Panic threatened to spread among the alien officers. Eli's heart pounded. "Focus on the weak points," he shouted. "Split into smaller groups. We can't let them think they control the battle." Pilots followed his instructions, weaving through the swarm with skill born of instinct rather than formal training. Eli guided them, voice calm, but his mind raced. The swarm had been relentless, adaptive, and terrifying. But human intuition and courage allowed them to exploit the small openings the swarm left unguarded. Slowly, with precision and daring, the fleet began to turn the tide. Meteors were destroyed in isolated clusters, their energy dissipated in controlled detonations. Eli's unconventional maneuvers created chaos for the swarm, disrupting their coordination. Every success was hard-won, every victory measured in inches and seconds. Hours passed, and fatigue threatened to overwhelm him. His hands were sore from operating controls, his eyes strained from constant focus, but he pressed on, knowing that hesitation would be fatal. The Queen's presence, calm and expectant, reminded him of the stakes. This was not just about survival. It was about protecting countless lives across the galaxy. Finally, as the last clusters of meteors approached the inhabited systems, Eli executed the final maneuver. He coordinated a simultaneous strike from multiple directions, using the remaining human pilots to bait and confuse the swarm, while the alien fleet delivered concentrated fire on critical weak points. The swarm faltered, energy fields collapsing under the combined assault. Explosions lit the darkness, echoing across the void. Silence followed. The void of space was empty once more, stars glimmering as though nothing had happened. Eli slumped in his seat, exhausted, hands shaking. Around him, alien officers stared in awe, processing the unexpected victory. The Queen's eyes met his once more, a small smile on her lips.
"You have shown the galaxy something remarkable," she said. "Not just courage, but the human ability to act when others hesitate."
Resourcefulness, adaptability, and empathy. These are strengths others often underestimate. Eli blinked, trying to absorb the weight of her words. The battle was won, but he felt the exhaustion of every decision, every risk, every split-second judgment. And yet, beneath the fatigue, there was a quiet pride. He had acted not as a trained soldier, but as a human being capable of thinking, feeling, and daring when others could not. The aftermath was chaotic but hopeful. Colonies sent messages of gratitude, lives were saved, and the alien fleet began to view humanity in a new light. Eli, once a simple scavenger, had become a symbol of human ingenuity and bravery. Later, aboard the command ship, Eli found a quiet moment. The Queen approached him, her presence serene. "Your act of kindness 3 days ago began this chain of events," she said softly. "Who would have thought that sharing your last meal would lead to saving countless lives?" Eli smiled weakly. "I didn't think it would matter. I just couldn't leave her hungry." Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of amusement and admiration. And that, Eli, is what makes humans remarkable. Even in the darkest places, even when survival seems impossible, you act with compassion. That is why you succeeded. The Queen left him then, her attendants guiding her away. Eli sank into a chair, letting the events wash over him. The galaxy had tested him, pushed him to his limits, and yet he had emerged not as a hero in the traditional sense, but as a human who had chosen to act with empathy and courage. Outside the ship, the stars stretched infinitely. The void was quiet now, peaceful in a way that seemed almost impossible after the chaos of the swarm. Eli thought back to the abandoned station, to the hungry woman, whose eyes had shone with silent gratitude. He realized then that the galaxy was full of surprises. Small choices, small acts of kindness, could ripple outward, shaping events far beyond their origin. As the command ship moved toward Andara Prime, Eli allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity was fragile, unpredictable, and often underestimated. Yet in that unpredictability lay a strength the galaxy had not anticipated. The swarm had been defeated, not by brute force alone, but by creativity, intuition, and the quiet courage of a human willing to act when others could not. Eli understood now that the galaxy had taken notice, not of his skill, nor of his luck, but of his humanity, and somewhere, in a corner of his mind, he wondered what other challenges awaited him, what other moments of connection and courage the universe had yet to reveal. For now, though, he allowed himself a rare, fleeting sense of peace. The battle was over, lives had been saved, and the galaxy had glimpsed what humanity was truly capable of. He had acted not out of duty, not for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. And that, he realized, was the most powerful thing of all. The aftermath of the swarm's defeat sent waves of relief and celebration throughout the Andara sector. News of Eli's role spread quickly, at first disbelief, then admiration, as humans in distant systems learned that one human's intuition and courage had helped save countless lives. Alien governments sent messages of gratitude. Young cadets studied the battle to understand the human strategies, and the Queen herself ensured that Eli's actions were recognized in the grand halls of Andara Prime. Eli returned to the central command station with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. The hallways were lined with banners celebrating the victory, their shimmering colors reflecting the light of the twin suns outside. Pilots, engineers, and officers bustled about, speaking in a chorus of alien languages, yet all eyes seemed to turn toward him occasionally. He was a stranger among them, a lone human amid a sea of more experienced beings, yet there was a weight in their gaze, a respect that both humbled and unsettled him. The Queen had summoned him to the throne chamber, a vast hall filled with light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The architecture was unlike anything Eli had ever seen. Towering columns of translucent crystal, walls etched with holographic constellations, and a floor that shimmered as if the stars themselves were beneath it. At the far end of the hall, the Queen stood, radiant in her crystalline robes, a symbol of both authority and grace. "You have done more than anyone could have expected," she said, her voice calm yet carrying the authority of a ruler who governed countless worlds. Not through power alone, but through courage, intuition, and humanity. You have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of. Eli nodded, unsure what to say. Words felt inadequate. I only did what I could, he murmured. I just reacted to what I saw. I didn't think it would matter so much. The Queen stepped forward. It matters because you acted without hesitation, without expectation of reward. That is rare in any species, even among the most advanced. It is the small, quiet acts of integrity and courage that ripple outward, changing events far beyond their origin. Your decision to share your last meal, a simple act of kindness, set in motion a chain of events that saved countless lives. Eli felt his chest tighten. It was true. He had not thought of himself as extraordinary when he offered his ration to a stranger in the derelict station. Yet here he was, standing before the most powerful ruler in the galaxy, a human recognized not for strength or titles, but for empathy and courage. The Queen raised her hand, and a pendant appeared, floating above her palm. Its design was intricate, with a central gem that pulsed with soft golden light, surrounded by a lattice of fine crystal. "This is the medal of stellar virtue," she explained. "It is given only to those whose actions reflect the highest ideals of compassion, bravery, and wisdom. You have earned it." Ooh. Eli's eyes widened. He had never imagined receiving such an honor, nor had he sought it. He took the pendant carefully, feeling the warmth of its energy. It was a symbol not only of recognition, but of trust. The galaxy acknowledging humanity as more than just a small, fragile species, capable of profound impact when guided by principle. Humans are often underestimated, the Queen continued, seen as unpredictable, fragile, or even inconsequential in the grand schemes of the cosmos. Yet you have shown what we have long suspected but never witnessed fully, that humanity, in its simplicity, holds a strength others overlook: resourcefulness, empathy, adaptability. These are qualities that define you, and they are qualities that the galaxy needs. Eli struggled to process the weight of her words. He had survived on instincts improvised when necessary, and acted with compassion out of habit, not ambition. And yet, in this vast alien world of star empires and cosmic politics, those small choices had made a difference. He realized then that the essence of humanity, our willingness to act, to care, to adapt, was something far greater than he had ever known. The Queen motioned for him to follow. She led him to a balcony overlooking the city below, the twin suns casting long shadows across the crystal towers. The streets were alive with beings of every shape and color, celebrating the victory over the swarm. Eli could see small screens projecting news across the city, images of the meteors, the fleet, and the humans' role in saving entire systems. His chest swelled with a quiet pride.
"You see, Eli," the Queen said softly, "your story is not just yours. It belongs to every human, every being who acts with courage and empathy."
The galaxy watches, and we learn from each other. Today, humans have proven that even one individual can influence the course of events in ways unimaginable. Eli looked down at the bustling city and felt a strange sense of connection. He had always lived at the edges, scavenging, surviving, avoiding notice. Now he was part of a larger story, a story where his small choices mattered on a galactic scale. It was humbling, inspiring, and terrifying all at once. The Queen's attendants appeared, inviting Eli to attend a celebratory ceremony where he would meet leaders from across the sector. He followed, trying to keep his composure. In the grand hall, beings of countless species approached him, offering words of thanks, gestures of respect, and expressions of admiration. He smiled and nodded, feeling the weight of their attention, yet also a sense of belonging he had never known. During a brief moment of solitude, the Queen approached him once more. "Ellie," she said, her voice quiet now, "the galaxy is vast, and there will always be challenges. But remember this. You have proven that humanity's smallest actions, acts of kindness, courage, and integrity, can echo farther than any weapon or strategy. Never underestimate the power of your choices." Eli nodded, understanding more deeply than ever before. He had acted without expectation, given his last meal to a stranger because it was the right thing to do. That single, simple choice had rippled across the galaxy, saving lives and earning recognition from the most powerful being he had ever encountered. It was proof that humanity, in its simplest form, could make a difference even on the largest scale. As the ceremony concluded, Eli found a quiet corner in the palace gardens, a serene space filled with glowing plants and reflective pools. The twin suns of Andara Prime cast a warm glow across the landscape. He thought back to the derelict station, the dark corridors, and the pale, luminous-eyed woman who had eaten his last ration. He smiled. The galaxy was full of surprises, and sometimes the smallest acts of compassion could lead to the greatest outcomes. A small voice inside him whispered a question. What next? The answer was not clear, but for the first time in his life, he felt ready to face it. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But humanity, he realized, had the power to meet them, to shape events with courage, ingenuity, and empathy. The Queen appeared beside him again, watching the city below. "Eli," she said, "this is only the beginning. The galaxy has noticed you, and through you, it has noticed humanity. There will be challenges ahead, but you are not alone. Your species carries a strength that is rare, precious, and vital. Never forget that." Eli looked at her, a quiet determination settling in his heart. He had survived on instinct, guided by compassion, and proved that humanity could shine even among the stars. Now, he understood that his journey was just beginning. There would be other threats, other decisions, other moments where courage and empathy would be tested. But he was ready. The galaxy stretched before him, infinite, mysterious, and alive with possibilities. And Eli, a simple human who had given his last meal to a stranger in need, had found his place within it. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting not just the light of distant suns, but the quiet, persistent brilliance of humanity itself. As he turned to leave the palace gardens, he felt a sense of peace. The galaxy had acknowledged his actions, but more importantly, he had discovered the power of humanity within himself. Acts of kindness mattered. Courage mattered. Adaptability mattered. And sometimes a single choice, made without thought of reward, could change the course of countless lives. Eli took a deep breath, stepping into the corridors of the palace, ready for whatever the universe would offer next. Somewhere, out there in the vastness of space, the pale, luminous-eyed queen watched, her eyes reflecting pride and admiration. Humanity had shown its value, and the galaxy had taken notice. The story of a simple act, a shared meal in a dark and abandoned station, had become legend. And for Eli, it was more than recognition. It was proof that even the smallest human actions could echo across the stars, shaping the destiny of worlds. And in that realization, he smiled, knowing that humanity, fragile yet resilient, had found its place among the stars.